بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of outlines of transcendent philosophy. And as you remember, we started chapter 3 about asalatul wujud, and we already had one session on asalatul wujud. We continue this chapter, and this is another way of dealing with asalatul wujud through consideration of the notion of kulliya tabi'i. Before we talk about this issue, we should remind ourselves of different considerations of mahiyya, i'tibaratul mahiyya. I'tibar has different meaning in philosophy, but here maybe the best translation is consideration. There are different ways to consider mahiyya or quiddity. We discussed this in philosophy, we discuss it in sometimes usul al-fiqh. So, mahiyya is divided into three types. Al-mahiyyatu bi-shart shay', al-mahiyyatu bi-shart la, al-mahiyyatu la bi-shartin. Sometimes we consider mahiyya with an addition. They call it al-mahiyyatul makhluta. It's mixed with something. For example, insan alim or abd mu'min in usul, for example, So we consider mahiyya of insan or a slave, abd, with a condition. For example, insan alim, a human being who is also knowledgeable, or a slave who is also believer, or water which is cold, al-ma'ul barid. This is bishart shay. Sometimes it is bishart la. We have a condition, but the condition is not to be mixed. They call it al-mahiyyatul mujarrada, like insan without anything. Of course, you can sometimes consider without something specific, but when they say al-mahiyyatul mujarrada, they mean without anything. And then al-mahiyyatu bi-shart la, insan, whether insan is alim or is not alim, doesn't make difference in this consideration. Water, whether it is barid or not barid, doesn't make difference. خب, these three considerations of mahiyya need one common maqsam, that we are going to divide it or classify it. Maqsam or dividend cannot be bishart shay, because if it is bishart shay, then it cannot also be for la bishart or bishart la. If it is bishart la, cannot be for the other two types. Yeah, so it has to be la bishart. Nothing, existence of something or non-existence of something, nothing is considered there. This again becomes la bishart, but we call this la bishart maqsami, which can be combined with lots of conditions. Yeah, la bishart al-maqsami yajtamu ma alf shart. no problem. But قسمی is different from بشرط شيء or لا بشرط. But مقسمی is in all these three. When you say, for example, Muslims are either Sunni or Shia, means Muslims are inclusive, Shia are Muslims, Sunni are Muslims, because maqsam should exist in both. Or you say, for example, human beings are men and women. Means men are human beings, women are also human beings. So maqsam exists in aqsam, in different types that it has. So ماهیت لا بشرط مقسمی is what they call it کلیه طبیعی, like insan without anything else, neither, for example, condition of existence or condition of non-existence. None of it. These two are there. ما هي من حيث هي ليست بموجودة ولا بمعدومة. Because if it was موجودة, then it could not exist in معدومة. So we could not say that is also ماهية. If it was معدومة, it could not be applied to موجودة. Therefore we say الماهية من حيث هي ليست إلا هي لا موجودة ولا معدومة. Is ماهية من حيث هي واحد or كثير? We say ليس بواحد ولا كثير. Is it ذهني or خارجي? ليست بذهني ولا خارجي. Is it بالقوة وبالفعل؟ ليست بالقوة وبالفعل. Because مقسم. If someone is not very much trained and has just studied logic and philosophy, may say, but this is اجتماع نقيضين. Two contradictory things can never exist together and can never not exist altogether. So, موجود and معدوم, they say it's نقيض, contradictory. How can you say something is ليس بموجودة وليس معدومة? Means you are removing both نقيضين. ارتفاع النقيضين is محال, اجتماع النقيضين is also محال. But if you are more careful, you know that this is not اجتماع النقيضين or ارتفاع النقيضين. This is a very important point. We had it in Bidaya also and Nihaya. So what is happening here? We say neither wujud is taken as a condition nor adam, existence or non-existence, fall outside mahiyya. They fall outside. This is one thing. If someone says they fall outside mahiyya and they don't fall outside mahiyya, this is naqizain. But to say wujud is not taken, adam is also not taken, no problem, because taking a concept as part of another concept or not taking, they are not naqiz. Sorry, taking a concept and taking adam of that concept is not naqiz. Yes, taking and not taking of the same thing is naqiz. For example, if I say to be young is not included in the definition of human being. To be not young also is not included in the definition of human being. There is no problem. But if I say to be young is not taken and to be young is taken, this is naqis. Okay? So, الماهية من حيث هي ليست بمعدومة ولا بموجودة ولا أي شيء آخر. واحد، كثير، قوة، فعل، ذهني، تدريجي. No. Now, after this, we have two types of sentences. I hope this is now clear. And then we have two types of sentences about wujud. Sometimes we say something is mawjood in the sense that, for example, we say al-insanu mawjoodun, in the sense that insan has some kind of ittihad or unity with existence. Al-insanu mawjood. Something that exists in the real world, external world, has some connection with insan, this ittihad. For example, there is a person, Ali. The book mentions the name Ali. When Ali exists, humanity also exists. We can say insan mawjoodun. But what does it mean, al-insanu mawjoodun? Means this kulliyya tabi'i has happened that has some unity or ittihad with existence. But it could be also different. For example, if before Ali was coming to existence, that mahiyya that was in Ali was not real, was not materialized. This is one way. When we say al-insanu mawjoodun, means this concept in subject and reality, they have some kind of ittihad. But sometimes we say something is mawjood in the sense that it exists outside. It feels the realities of outside. It's haqiqi. These are two different ways of considering mawjood. Do you mean Ali mawjoodun, that Ali himself exists? Yes. But if you say, for example, al-insanu mawjoodun, is different from Ali mawjoodun. So, according to all philosophers, when you say insan mawjoodun, definitely the first is correct. But the question which is making distinction between people who are asalatul wujudi and asalatul mahuvi is whether we can apply existence to insan in the second sense or not. In the second sense, when, for example, when we say Ali mawjoodun, Ali has tashakhus. Ali is individual reality. Can we say the same way for insan, which is in Ali the same thing? Yes, we can say insan has unity or ittihad with wujud, but in the sense that insan is feeling this reality, insan exists outside, that mahiyya la bishart exists outside. This is the question. Mulla Sadra says no. Ibn Sina says yes. Argument of Ibn Sina is that when mahiyyat mashrut, mahiyyat bishart wujud exists, when انسانیت with تشخص and فردیت exists, then مقسم should exist, because ماهیت لا بشرط is part, is جز of ماهیت بشرط شیء. If you cut ماهیت بشرط شیء into two pieces, one is ماهیت and then there's condition. That ماهیت which is separated is ماهیت لا بشرط. So ابن سینا says کلی طبیعی موجودون به وجود افراده. Mulla Sadra says no. The instance, the individual exists and is a reality, is حقیقی, is متشخص, is واحد, is عینی, like Ali, Zayd. The individual exists. Mahiyya is not part of this. Mahiyya is in mind. Mahiyya is a concept. The relation between maqsam and qism is not relation between juz and kul, between part and compound. Yes, in the first sense we can say al-insanu mawjudun. When Ali is mawjud, we can say al-insanu mawjud, but it is ittihad, not ayniyat. In other words, according to Mulla Sadra, this is majaz fil isnad, as we explained last week. If you think insan has reality, sometimes you say insan and reality have some unity, some ittihad, no problem. But if you want to say insan has reality, insan is real, insan is feeling the real things outside, for example, Zayd and Bakr, insan, no. Insan is not outside. I thought we have beings, Zayd and Bakr. But mahiyatul insan is in mind. So this is the difference between Mulla Sadra and philosophers like Ibn Sina. So Ibn Sina says Kulliya Tabi exists outside in its individuals or in instances, in Masadiq. Mulla Sadra says we can use wujud, mawjud, as a predicate for mahiyat, for insan, for example. But in the first sense, not in the second sense. First sense means ittihad. Haml needs ittihad. Ittihad can be mafhumi, ittihad can be wujudi. For ittihad of wujudi, there are lots of possibilities. But in the second sense, when we say Ali mawjudun, is ayniyat. This sense cannot be used for al-insan. We cannot say al-insan mawjudun in this way. There are some articulations in the book that I try to avoid to make it maybe more simple and clearer. And I think this, inshallah, is making it clear. Otherwise, we can go through the, more detailed, points in the book, but a little bit might be complicated. I think this, what we said, inshallah, is doing justice and explains the difference between two types of philosophical ideas. Let me read for you conclusion at the end of page 35. حاصل کلام این که به نظر فیلسوفان مزبور according to the above mentioned philosophers, the previous philosophers before Mulla Sadra, نمیتوان از این که حیثیت کلی طبیعی حیثیت تشخص نیست، در حالی که موجود بودن در خارج به معنای دوم مستلزم تشخص است، نتیجه گرفت که کلی طبیعی در خارج موجود نیست. According to these philosophers, we cannot make this conclusion that کلی طبیعی doesn't exist outside from what? From saying that کلی طبیعی is a different consideration compared to being real outside. The difference between these two considerations doesn't stop us to say انسان موجودون in the second sense. Mulla Sadra, yes, says it stops. But Ibn Sina and others say no. Still we can say al-insanu mawjudun in the second sense. Means it's reality, it feels real things. به بیان ابن سینا, if you want to use Ibn Sina's words, این که ماهیت موجود در خارج متشخص و همراه با عوارضی است, the fact that ماهیه like انسان outside is متشخص, is individuated and has some accidents, for example, has shape, color, size, height, etc., weight. This insaniya which exists outside comes with certain specifications. But this is not in conflict, منافی نیست. With what? با اینکه کلی طبیعی و ماهیت لا به شرط که من حیث و هیه متشخص نیست و خالی از عوارض است با آن موجود باشد. So, ماهیه which exists has specifications, but still ماهیه من حیث و هیه which has no specifications can be existing in this ماهیت موجوده, according to Ibn Sina. به بیان کوتاه, to make it short, محال نیست کلی طبیعی در خارج به معنای دوم موجود باشد. There is no problem to say that کلی طبیعی can exist in the second sense. Means like Ali موجودون, say کلی طبیعی also موجودون in the sense that it feels and it's making the real things outside. بلکه با وجود شخص حقیقتاً و به ذات به معنای پیش گفته, when individual exists, کلی طبیعی also exists in a real sense. خب, Mulla Sadra doesn't accept this. Mulla Sadra says that when we say something is mawjood, like Ali mawjoodun, in the second sense, it only can be used for something which is mutashakhis, something which is aini. It cannot be used for mahiyya. This is what Mulla Sadra believes. موجود بودن به معنای دوم مساوق با شخصیت است. مساوق. مساوق is more than musawi. Musawi means that their instances are identical. Imagine, we have a city in which there are few Muslims, 100 Muslims. And all these 100 Muslims are, for example, from certain country. For example, they are Iranians. Muslims in that city and Iranians in that city are musawi, are the same. Muslims in that city are the same 100 people who are Iranians. Okay, this condition. There are 100 people and who are all Muslims. Sorry, all Iranians, all the Muslims. But to be Iranian and to be Muslim are not musawiq. They are musawi. Why they are not musawiq? Because from the same aspect that they are considered as Muslims, they are not considered as Iranian, and vice versa. To be Iranian is about their ethnicity, about their origin. To be Muslim is what faith they have. So these are musawi but not musawiq. Okay? Here Mulla Sadra is talking about musawiq. Musawi is the first sense. So موجود بودن به معنای دوم مساوق با شخصیت است، یعنی تشخص. In the second sense, تشخص is not separable. And in the same aspect, الوجود يساوق الشخصية، يساوق العينية. به بیان دقیق تر، more precisely، اساساً حیثیت واقعیتی که تشکیل دهنده ملأ خارج است. What makes the external world, what constitutes the real things or fills them, پر میکند, you can say. عین حیثیت تشخص است. It's the same as being متشخص from the same perspective. To be متشخص and to be عینی are the same. یعنی تشخص ذاتی آن است. خب can you say for ماهیت that تشخص is ذاتی and essential for ماهیه؟ No. ماهیه has only جنس and فصل as essentials. Even وجود is not essential for ماهیه, let alone تشخص. پس چیزی میتواند واقعیت خارجی و وجود به معنای یاد شده، یعنی second sense، باشد که حیثیت آن همان حیثیت تشخص باشد. So the only thing can be said that in the second sense is موجود, that its consideration is the same as considering تشخص. And this is not about ماهیت لا بشرط. Why we may make this mistake that we think Mahiya exists outside in the same way, in the second sense. First sense, no problem. Second sense, because Mahiya is an image, tasveer, hekayat. Mahiya is an image, a mirror for the real thing. And it's so identical that we may sometimes attribute properties or judgments about one to the other. Something which is for the real thing, we attribute to its concept in the mind, or vice versa. انسان به غلط به سبب اتحاد و حمل, because of that unity and predication, انسان به غلط حکایت و تصویر را همان محکی و صاحب تصویر بپندارد. Mistakenly you think that image and the possessor of that image, what is imaged or what is imagined or what is portrayed, is the same as the image. It's a mistake. Also, he says after a few lines, نفی وجود کلی طبیعی و ماهیت لا به شرط در خارج مستلزم نفی وجود ماهیت به شرط شی در خارج نیز هست. We go one step further. We say not only ماهیت لا به شرط cannot exist, ماهیت به شرط شی also is different again. Someone say no, it's okay. انسان به شرط الوجود. We say no. انسان به شرط الوجود means انسان which can be used as image for something which exists. وجود cannot be essential for انسان. So this کلی طبیعی can never exist outside. Whether you say with, without existence, it's just in the mind. روشن است که نفی وجود کلی طبیعی و ماهیت لا به شرط در خارج مستلزم نفی وجود ماهیت به شرط شی در خارج نیز هست. So when we say ماهیت لا به شرط doesn't exist outside in the second sense, the same is ماهیت به شرط شی. زیرا اگر ماهیت به شرط شی در خارج موجود باشد in the second sense به این معنا که خود همان واقعیت خارجی و همان شخص باشد، از یک سو چون همان واقعیت خارجی است حیثیتش همان حیثیت تشخص است. از سوی دیگر چون ماهیت است حیثیتش حیثیت تشخص نیست. If ماهیت به شرط شی is existing outside in the second sense means it has to be عینی and متشخص. On the other hand ماهیت we said is not عینی and متشخص. So you are putting inconsistency, you are putting contradiction inside this concept. If you want to say ماهیت به شرط شی exists outside. So, unlike Mulla Sadra, Ibn Sina, unlike Ibn Sina, برخلاف Ibn Sina, that was saying ماهیت به شرط شی exists outside, therefore مقسم must also be because it goes for call. Mulla Sadra says مقسم doesn't exist and therefore ماهیت به شرط شی also doesn't exist outside. So Mulla Sadra changes the situation and says we change the direction and also the kind of a way of arguing. Instead of saying that ماهیت به شرط شی exists and therefore ماهیت لا به شرط also exists, we say ماهیت لا به شرط doesn't exist primarily, essentially, and ماهیت به شرط شی also, because ماهیت به شرط شی has ماهیت لا به شرط inside, and if you want to say it's coming with qualities of ماهیت لا به شرط plus existence, then would be contradiction. ماهیه in all circumstances cannot be feeling and making or constituting the realities outside. This is the core of the point, the core of argument. And this is another way of talking about اعتباریة الماهیة, about اصالة الوجود. خب صدر المتعلقین in his تعلیقه means comments on Shifa by Ibn Sina first explains the argument and ideas of Ibn Sina, and then he explains that when we say Mahiyya exists, it's only in the sense that Mahiyya can be متحد can be united with some realities in the first sense. اتحاد, حمل. Not more than that, not the second sense. Explicitly he says, سپس تصریح می کند ملا صدرا که موجودیت به معنای فوق, موجود بودن in the first sense, به معنای واقعیت خارجی بودن نیست. چون if it is واقعیت خارجیش has to be متشخص, عینی. در نهایت صریحاً تفاوت نظر ابن سینا و نظر خیش را درباره کلی طبیعی بیان و یادآوری می‌کند. Then again explicitly he says what's the difference between his idea and idea of Ibn Sina. This is what he says. به عقیده ابن سینا گرچه حیثیت ماهیت حیثیت موجودیت نیست، با تأثیر و افاضه علت در خارج حقیقتاً و به ذات به معنای دوم موجود می شود. It says ماهیه in itself is not requiring existence, but with افاضه, with granting existence to ماهیه by Allah, by the cause, ماهیه becomes real. A change happens in ماهیه becomes real. In the second sense, Ibn Sina says, Allah cannot do this. Allah cannot change Mahiyya into Mawjood in the second sense. Yes, Allah can grant existence to something which has Mahiyya, make something which has Mahiyya, but cannot grant existence to Mahiyya. There's a very subtle point here. According to Mulla Sadra, ممکن نیست ماهیت در خارج حقیقتاً و به ذات موجود شود. It's impossible that ماهیت really in its true sense becomes موجود. I mean the second sense. سهم آن از موجودیت فقط اتحاد با واقعیت خارجی است. The maximum that Mahiyya can enjoy from existence is to be united with something which is real. And when we say united, not meaning the same, means اتحاد حمل, like a حمل. بنابراین با تأثیر و افاضه علت فقط واقعیت خارجی که محکی ماهیت است موجود می شود. علت makes that thing that now exists, makes it real. Give existence to it, it brings it to reality. But Mahiyya remains the same. Mahiyya cannot be made a personal, individual reality. خب, this is one part of our discussion. We have another thing to discuss. I stop. If you have questions, we can take your questions, and then I start again. We need another maybe 20 minutes, and we have inshallah enough time before Salat to finish this chapter. But I stop now. If there is any question, any comment, please share, and then otherwise we can continue. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.